Caleb Harris case, as promised. This is a case that, from the very beginning, I got involved in it. Chris Cuomo was really the person ramrodding this case from News Nation, and we were just so concerned because Caleb went missing exactly a month ago, by the way, on March 4th, and he's been missing ever since, and this is a true mystery. This is a case with very few leads and with a lot of very interesting circumstances. I'm going to quickly go ahead and talk about the timeline, but first, I want to introduce my very, very special guest, and that is Caleb's father, Randy, and their dear family friend, Tony, and just thank them for being here. We're going to address all the questions you all had, and between the three of us, I think we'll get them all knocked out as to where the investigation is. So without further ado, as I always say, let's get into the timeline. I want to talk just about very particular times because we can get caught up in the minutia of everything that happened that day, but let's drill down on the times that we have ironclad, at least from law enforcement at this point. Number one, we know that at 12:56, Caleb and his friends were playing with their new little dog, Jenny, that they had just adopted, okay? Then the next time we have ironclad, 2:20, one of the roommates went to bed. Correct me if I'm wrong, is it just one that went to bed and one left?
Correct.
Okay, correct. At 2:44, we have a Snapchat, and that is with Caleb's sister. At 3:03, we have another Snapchat. That's with Caleb's friend that lived out of state. At 3:12, we have the shared location stopped. That's the last, according to police, that's the last time it sort of the phone tried to share a location. And then at 3:20, we have Uber Eats dropping off the order that Caleb had placed for some items to eat and drink. All right, at 11 a.m. was the first time it was noticed by the roommate that indeed Caleb was gone because he saw the Uber Eats on the back porch steps. So these are the critical times that we're dealing with and what happened. So I want to break right into now the particular questions you all had because you sleuths and you true crimers asked such great questions, and we're going to dial down. First of all, number one question that was asked, are there any new leads? There are. There is new information, and it was shared confidentially between law enforcement and Randy and Tony, and that's where it has to stay. It has to stay there because there's nothing more important than the sanctity of the investigation and the hope that Caleb is found alive. So for this reason, I can give you the good news that there is a development, and then the bad news that it can't be shared. But just so you know that law enforcement is actively working. Number two, people have asked about what agencies are involved. I'm going to go over those. We have the homicide unit of the local department at Corpus Christi. We have the Texas Rangers. We have the United States Marshal Service. We have the Secret Service, and we have the FBI. I just want to quickly touch base about those components. Why would Secret Service be involved? Secret Service only handles credit card fraud and protection and counterfeiting of money. But this is what they do so well, and that is digital forensic analysis of computers and of cell phones. So they are very good at doing that, and I firmly believe they have been brought in to assist in that capacity. The FBI, I believe, was brought in to assist in that capacity, possibly also. And then also they are just such a force multiplier because there's agents and analysts much bigger than any of the other federal organizations that can assist in this case. So they're offering up all their resources and also their expertise because they work kidnappings, they work human trafficking, they work violent crime, they work it all and have federal authority over all the investigative statutes. So it makes sense that the Bureau is going to be brought in. U.S. Marshal Service, yes, they do courtroom security, but you know what they also do very well is fugitive hunting. So they are good at tracking individuals and tracking people, fugitives or otherwise. So it makes all the sense in the world. They are also involved. As far as the Texas Bureau of Investigation, listen, they're going to want to be at the pulse of what is being done here, because if this case does get passed on to them, they're going to be at the pulse from the beginning. But make no mistake, Corpus Christi investigators and their investigative unit, they have the #1 venue in jurisdiction right now. Randy, Tony, did I miss anyone else helping? I'm sure the Sheriff's Department is helping as well. Did I miss anyone else or anything else in that regard?
Texas Parks and Wildlife have definitely been involved as well.
Thank you. We should, that's good one that I did leave out. And they are important because a lot of the land and grounds that they're looking at are the law enforcement entity over those areas
Right.
are the wildlife guys. And so it's good that they've been involved. Thank you, Randy.
Jennifer?
Oh, yes, please.
You know, one thing, I mean, I've listened to you for years, and you're always incredibly accurate, and that's part of the reason your followers love you so much. We need that timeline, we also need to add 258 into that, because that's when they show the phone powered down or was shut off.
I like that you brought that up, and I know offline we kind of discussed that because it is contradictory, right? We have 258
Yes.
that it's shut off, but then we have the 312 that there was a shared location. That possibly could be some sort of phantom share. It seems nebulous right now. And in part, I think this could be why the Bureau and Secret Service have been brought in to use the different software capabilities that they have and that they're expert in to dial in on those exact times.
You're absolutely right, and exactly what you said. Those could just be anomalies. They could be delayed. There's really not 100% that. I mean, that's what we got, but we don't really know that 100%.
Okay, so we're still, our timeline is possibly a little fuzzy, and I pulled this timeline from what they put out.
Yeah.
What Corpus Christi put out. All right, so good note for all of us to dial back into as the case develops, that time may be a little off. All right, question 3. Did they use dogs initially? Yes. That's just a hard, fast yes. I saw photos of those dogs. I know they used the dogs. Any elaboration there, Tony or Randy?
I can't think of anything. I mean, they used cadaver dogs as well as bloodhounds.
All right, the scent dogs. Do you know what they used from Caleb to give to the dogs for the scent?
We went into his apartment, and there was still a lot of clothes like jackets, hats, shoes, things like that. So mostly they got off of his hats and shoes and things like that. They had pretty good resources for doing that.
And did the scent dogs track anywhere beyond the threshold or beyond the bridge or any place that was unknown?
Yes, they did. Based on the anomaly of the after 3 a.m. pings or whatever they were, they did go to another location, and which is within a square of what we've all been looking at from a ground search capability, and they worked quite a few of those fields as well with two of the best dogs you can get out of Beeville Correctional Institute with the warden.
That's great, and I wanted to mention them too and give them credit
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's such a huge network of law enforcement that all have different capabilities, and those scent hounds are amazing. Their tracking skills, obvious reasons that they would be attached to a correctional facility. It's very interesting. Did they actually denote hits, or were they a little bit iffy hits?
They didn't get anything. We were delayed a little bit in getting the bloodhounds in, and so quite honestly, it was a very active scene, and with a lot of kids coming in and out. Myself, it was kind of a Grand Central Station, so as wonderful as they are, it was probably tainted by the time we did get the bloodhounds in, and that they just weren't able to pick up anything.
Yeah, and it's so difficult. I always tell people that dogs are amazing, no matter whether you're talking cadaver dog or a scent dog or a dog to help apprehend somebody. They are amazing. Drug dogs, bomb dogs. I just, I have so much respect, but they're like people. They get tired. They work better under different, a set of conditions than other sets of conditions. Certainly scents can be muddled, and it is a shame, I will say, quite frankly, that they were brought in late into the game, and that that scene was, I don't know if I want to use the word contaminated, but rather that it was less able for a dog to collect the scent by the time the dogs got out there. So that is quite disappointing, and hopefully did not alter the course of the investigation too much. But I'm disappointed to learn this. Did they search water? I'm going to answer that as yes, because I know for a fact that I saw people out there with wetsuits near that drainage canal where that little bridge was. When I say I saw that, an FBI buddy of mine, we were new agents together, he happened to be in that area right when the news came out, and he did a favor for me and went out there and took pictures just to see what activity was occurring with law enforcement. And so I was very happy to see that they were searching all those waterways. But that comes with a caveat. And that is, I don't know how thorough or how many waterways have been searched and how many square miles, if you will, it's been searched. Randy, Tony, any feedback there?
Tony, I'll take this one. I've been on the ground with since day one, and even the day it happened, immediately we had lots of students involved, and with drones and kids just going all over the place looking, physically looking, and that was kind of the kickoff of it. Even close friends and roommates grabbed waders, and there was a report maybe he was out by Mud Bridge. So I mean, 2 or 3 hours later, they're out there walking in the mud with waders on, searching for their friend. Beyond that, it was a massive water search as well. Like you said, they were in their wetsuits walking the creek lines. There's not really any water in it at that time. We've had a couple of rains, but so those were all of the drainage areas that drain into Oso Bay were droned first by the CCPD drones, and then physically walked by the search and rescue, CCPD search and rescue, including a couple of tunnel drains that are 1.5 to 2 miles long, pitch black. The drones went through first, and then they actually walked them. So there's been a lot of what we would consider water searches. They actually scuba dove a lot of the bridge pylons that go over Oso Bay, and then we've had additional volunteers with airboats working with the search and rescue. And really the biggest thing as far as the amount of territory we're able to cover, We were blessed with a dear friend that provided a helicopter, and you know, that was amazing. Because we could do things in a helicopter that no one person can do. I mean, we covered an immense amount of territory over water, the shorelines of Oso Bay and National Air. Again, you can kind of include them. The Naval Air Station was amazing, letting us, be 5-10 feet off the ground at their facility, all the way around their island, and even setting on the tarmac. Very, very helpful. And we were under their authority the whole time because it's a pretty large airspace territory. But we went, up Oso Creek, over to the power plant, down the National Seashore, areas that you just wouldn't be able to explore with just a search, a ground search.
All this information is so important because I think it really puts the spotlight on how much was done, how much was searched, and yet still no clue, no sign of Caleb. And I think that that's very noteworthy. Have any of the larger bodies of water that are further away been searched to your knowledge?
We did. Texas Parks and Wildlife did run over all that. Also, the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard came in the second day, and they did heat, thermal imaging around the whole area, and then around Oso Bay, and then out to the National Seashore. And then when we got the helicopter, we also went. If you're local, you kind of understand the bay system, the intercoastal, out to Packery Channel, up to some of the fishing holes, and then down the National Seashore, and then back up both sides of the, say, Baffin Bay intercoastal areas, south of Flower Bluff, and then all over Flower Bluff, inside of Flower Bluff. But the waters, and actually all the way over to the Lexington, over on the other side of Corpus Christi.
That's great. That's just such great news to hear, because I think obviously when you're conducting an investigation like this, it's two-pronged. One prong is the investigative side, looking at that media, interviewing witnesses, trying to figure all of that out. But the second part of it, which is so important early on, is the searches and how complete they are and who is doing the searching. And so I'm happy to hear it's the coasties, and it's the wildlife folks, and it's law enforcement, supplemented by students and by volunteers who care and are going to really work hard as well, but they need that leadership there. So I'm glad to hear that it was that extensive.
Well, and we've actually had, on top of all that, a volunteer group out of San Antonio Search and Rescue, and then we had Texas Search and Rescue. They were there immediately. They were invited, by CCPD, and then we had EquiSearch come in. But by the time we were able to get EquiSearch, there was so many more authorities already involved that they came in. They looked at everything that they could do, but the ground searches wasn't tapering, but it just wasn't conducive for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, EquiSearch is great, and those other two entities that you mentioned, definitely want to give a hat tip to them. It's amazing, I always say this, for all the evil people in the world that do egregious crimes, there's 100-fold amazing people that help, that come to the rescue, that don't go to work, that will do anything to try to help in cases like this. And it's certainly happening, and I'm so appreciative, because I do feel like that when it comes to the media spotlight and the social media spotlight, that because of the timing of Caleb going missing and Riley Strain going missing and Sebastian Rogers going missing, that his case, except for on Cuomo, that his case was definitely not as well publicized. And certainly we're going to do a change. We're going to do everything we can. I know I've seen so many people on social media now that are making this case a priority. And I'm so happy to see this. This is a 21-year-old young man with the rest of his life ahead of him, a student, and so I'm hopeful that there can be positive news in the future.
I'd like to add to that too. Our family and friends from New Braunfels really came out in droves, and the next day they had a prayer vigil at the church, and then it was just a mass caravan down here of family, friends, church friends, extended family, extended friends, and then of course our immediate family was here and doing just beyond. They were all my rock, from my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my wife, of course, and my daughter. I mean, my daughter was involved very much in the day-to-day meetings, taking notes, and so they deserve a lot of credit for sure.
Well, in a case like this, there's no one that suffers more probably than the parents and immediate family. And, Randy, I've seen you, like I said, since day, I guess, too, was when I first intersected with you on Como, and you've been a rock. And because you have such a strong faith, I know that is a big reason why you've been able to have such a positive outlook and a stiff upper lip, as my mom would say, in a situation that privately I know you're mourning the fact that you haven't found him, and I just can't imagine what those quiet nights and moments at home or when you're by yourself thinking of him, what those must be like. And my hat's off to you for your strength and the strength of your wife and Caleb's sister as well, because I know this is beyond difficult.
It is, but we do have a lot of faith, and got people like Tony that's really just wrapped his arms around our family, and we appreciate it.
All right, let me move on to a few more questions. We just talked about the news issue. Let's see. All right, so I want to talk about these Snapchats a little bit. You okay, Randy?
Yeah.
And you and I had offline, Tony, Randy, and I had talked offline about these snaps, because my question was, with Snapchats and with communications as a whole, right? Sometimes you text and everybody's asleep and you just want them to see it the next day, or it's nothing really important, or you're passing time, and even, people silence their phones so you don't have to worry about disturbing. And I just wanted to make it clear that was basically this situation. It seemed more like a time passing. This wasn't, snapping back and forth. His sister didn't even receive it till the next day. His friend not till a couple days later. So this was something he was doing likely to just communicate and pass the time as he was waiting. We kind of came to that agreement. Does that sum that up, Randy and Tony?
Yeah, I think so. He's waiting on his Uber Eats. He's an outdoor kid. And just put the dog away, and or snap the dog to my daughter, and then puts the dog away and goes outside, and we're gonna assume that he's just waiting for his order and getting out. It's a foggy night, but it's still kind of cool. And fog rolls in. It's kind of neat to see.
Hey, if I can wait inside versus outside, I'm outside all day.
Yeah, for sure.
Same with anything. I'm outdoors, and it sounds to me like that is exactly what your son Caleb was like. He loved it outdoors.
Absolutely.
Okay. Why do we know? We know he was barefoot. Why do we know he was barefoot?
The 1 o'clock or 12:58, whatever it is, video shows him as being barefoot, and then the snap to my daughter also. There's a little bit of an area there where you can definitely see his toes. So we're confident that he was barefoot. You can't be 100%, but when I go back and look at his shoes, he wears a size 13, so he's kind of unique there, and we've pretty well accounted for all his shoes. I mean, we know Birkenstocks are in the truck. There's a Birkenstock here. He's got 2 hookahs. He's got shoes that he wears fishing. His waiters, everything's in the apartment. Wallet, keys, truck's locked. The only thing we're missing is his phone.
Right. So some people just ask, how did we know that? So thank you for summarizing the knowledge there. So a good question that came in was, there was a request, quote unquote, by the family to expand the search area. And we talked a little bit offline about that, but would it be, can I suffice it to say, and feel free to expand if you would like or not, suffice it to say that in case there's other sightings that could have occurred, you wanted to make sure that the area was expanded to include places where possible sightings could occur, did occur, may occur. Does that pretty much sum up why you all just wanted that area expanded a little?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't know where he is, and if he was taken, then we hope he's here still, but we're not. We don't know that, and so I think it's critical that even today we have teams out, San Antonio, Austin, New Braunfels, of course. All this area here, Ground Zero, all the way out, just flooding anybody and everybody that will listen, and going through a drive-through, grab a brochure and hand it to them, and asking for that support, and post those the reward flyers, just all over. I mean, if he was taken, we don't know that he's still here, so he could easily be in another state, and so we've reached out to a lot of corporate businesses as well that we're hoping will come online and allow their franchises to post pictures of Caleb.
I mean, the bottom line is, and I'm only going to digress to this for a very specific point. I've done it before. But for the Bethunes, Gabby Petito likely wouldn't be found. And but for social media and the picture of that van being broadcast, Lima Charlie, throughout social media and mainstream media, the Bethunes likely wouldn't have even seen it and knew there was any relevance to go back and look at their video footage. And there are so many people who aren't newsies and aren't true crime elite that have never heard of Caleb, they never heard of Riley, they never have heard of Sebastian, they haven't even heard of Gabby Petito, and that even now. And that's why it is so critical that his face and name be blasted, because the person that might have seen him doesn't even know they saw anything important.
Sure. And we're getting some reports, from other states and other cities that we're checking out immediately, and we've asked people to definitely call the tip line, because then we can do that if it's a definite sighting. Somebody says, I see him, and they're in Michigan or they're in New York or wherever, then that's even a 911 call to say, hey, we have. And when they do that, they, as you know, there's bolos out nationwide, and they can pull that up and get a picture of who he is. So that's why we're pushing it, and we're getting some billboards in the local area that, again, a wonderful family is donating, and we have billboards in New Braunfels right on I-35, I-37. Anything we can do to get his picture out there, and of course get the reward out there as well.
And I just, as a side note, I just want to say, and Randy, you mentioned it early on, you've been out there searching from the get-go. This is your son. There's nothing more important right now. To me, just to see that heartfelt sacrifice and all the other people that are willing to get out there, we just need to proliferate this story so it can touch the right people that might have that clue that brings Caleb home.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we had a question about, was it normal for him to say, take a stroll at 3 in the morning? I think we've made it clear that he was with buddies. They were celebrating this dog. There might have even been beverages and so forth consumed. And nevertheless, he had decided to order Uber Eats on this particular night. something that he normally ordered. So we want to make it clear just to the audience that it wasn't that he's normally out and about Sunday night at 3 a.m., but rather it was normal in this situation because he had placed at Uber Eats and they had a new dog. So all of these circumstances, and by the way, the dog, they didn't get to the house until about 11. Is that right?
10:30 or 11, yes, because he was playing a video game with one of his friends in Colorado, and instead of they really don't like doing the whole chat thing on video games, so they would normally just use their phones, put them on speaker or whatever, and play video games. So he was, as I was tracking his phone the next day, I noticed the number. Okay, I'm going to call it, or I punched it in my phone and realized it was his buddy out of that he grew up with, out of Colorado, and it was in my phone, so I knew exactly who it was. And he was playing a video game for about 71 minutes, and then so if you look at that timeline, that was probably they quit playing when the dog got there.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense. So, in other words, their night was a little bit more delayed, and
Yes.
it was more festive on a Sunday night than it likely normally would have been because
Yeah.
of the dog. And then that caused the Uber Eats to be ordered late. And so everything ended up being late. So, just for our audience, it wasn't that, this 3 a.m. was normal. And it does make it quite unique and hopefully will help law enforcement from the standpoint is very few people are out and about between 3, 4 in the morning on a Sunday night going into Monday for obvious reasons. So,
And he did have later classes on Monday. I'm
yeah,
sorry to
that was
interrupt you.
another
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, a
No,
little bit later classes. I think they're like 10:30 or 11. And so, Monday mornings sometimes are, it's a little bit of a sleep-in day. During duck season, a lot of times they're in bed by, I've caught them in bed by 7:30 or 8 because they are getting up at 4:30, 5 o'clock to go duck hunting. So that was real normal. And he normally be the first one in bed because he's going to be up and rustling around, getting everything ready to go, duck hunting. So, and they would get up early. So during duck season, they're in bed pretty early.
yeah, and also, let's face it, in college, was there ever really a bedtime? I mean, depending on when something was going on or something was
Right.
happening, who wasn't up and about? And somehow you could be up until 2 in the morning, get up at 6, and last all day long because you're 20.
Right.
So, just a quick reminder, these are college students. These are college kids. They are at the prime of their life. I love that Luke Bryan song. I don't know if you know it, but it's something like, basically the message is let the kids have all the fun now because, you're not going to be 20 again. I just love that song. I wish I could remember the exact lyric, but it's a great song. And these kids were in the prime of their life and having a ball.
Absolutely.
Jen, I think that you buttoned that up pretty well. But it was very normal for him to order Uber Eats, and it was very normal for him to order what he ordered. I think that you kind of button it up by saying what we believe, which is he was just pushed a little later into the evening because he didn't have a typical Sunday. They got a dog, he's doing things, and he loses track of time. And next thing you know, he realizes he's got to get his Lunchables and apple pie and Red Bull for the fishing trip. And, the convenience stores there are closed. The one that he ordered it from was a little further away. And so, the events of the evening took him into where he realized, hey, I got to get my food ordered. So he realizes that while he's out walking his dog and snapping his sister. And, so he goes ahead and orders the Uber Eats and, you know, contactless delivery dropped off on the back door. So he's basically got a little time to walk around and hang out and enjoy the early morning and the fog and the decent temperatures and all that. And, makes all the sense in the world while he was still out there because you know, when he gets a notification on his phone that the Uber Eats is there, then he goes on into the house and goes out the back door and, picks up his Uber Eats order and then goes on to bed.
And I think I do want to make it clear too that in that time frame, and I've always said this, it's likely, or not likely, I won't use the word likely, it's possible that somebody he knew came up to him and, he got in and got to talking with them, and something like that approached him. And then maybe that resulted in him becoming missing, and I don't mean a male version of Thelma and Louise scenario. I mean a scenario where he wouldn't have wanted to leave, but he did leave. So
Yeah, I think at this point there's a lot of potential situations on the table. I mean, there's some that are off the table as well, but I think that there's got to be several scenarios on the table just because we know so little.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right, and that's how law enforcement works, is backwards, process of elimination, and they are clearly in the middle of that. All right, let's move on to a few more questions here. There was a question about any bank activity. Did he make any big withdrawals? Was there anything taken out of his account leading up to this evening?
That was the first thing I looked at. Really, honestly, I as soon as I got there, met with the police, and we got things going as a missing persons and elevated to an aggravated missing persons or whatever you call it. I went straight to the bank accounts, fearful for my own as well, just to see. And we share an account together, and then we share a credit card together. And so, I'm checking those, and there was nothing even remotely questionable on any of the bank accounts, credit cards, anything. Of course, I had his wallet, so it was kind of like, okay, I've got his wallet, so he didn't have anything, and he really didn't have access to cash. It's just credit card, debit card, normal, stuff like that. Any cash that he would have would be, generated from me slipping him a 20 when I'm down here working, or mom or Nana or something like that. But it wasn't like he were giving him $600 or something like that. It was never anything like that. It was just typical mom and Nana and Pop and myself. Hey, here's $20 in case you need something extra or whatever. But he's a college student that we're still funding, and quite frankly, we wanted him to focus on school, and so he just doesn't have, he's not working or anything like that. He did work at a movie theater last year, and that's always been brought up. Gosh, these kids are out till 2 or 3 in the morning. Well, working at a movie theater, yeah, he would get home at 1:30 or 2, which was just normal.
Right, but back to Tony's point about sort of checking the boxes and checking off what happened, that would, incline a person to believe not necessarily a robbery. Obviously, the wallet was left behind, so nothing could have been taken to utilize these accounts. But we know of many cases where individuals are taken and they're forced to go to ATMs. They're forced to withdraw money. That's a very usual occurrence if somebody is taken for that purpose.
Sure.
So I think we can at least sort of check that off the box, that scenario would likely not have taken place since all the funds are intact.
Yes, I just had a friend that had that happen to in Las Vegas.
Did you?
Yeah,
it happens so often.
Yeah, he almost lost his life. He was given a drug in his drink. He's by himself, and word of warning, that very much happens. And he was chased, and what they do is they chase him, get them, and then they start going to all the ATMs and taking money, and then leave them for whatever. And that was definitely a fear, because I have a friend that just happened to.
Right. It's like, it's good to start checking things off, I think, too, for you as a father.
Yes.
And once we can check those off, then, it starts narrowing down the possibilities. We had somebody ask about, could he have been taken by cartels? Just in my experience, unless you're a cartel member or you're on a usual transactional basis with a cartel member, you're pretty much safe from the cartels for the most part. It's people who would somehow do business with people that would get into some sort of drug debt or some other sort of debt or some other disrespect. Sometimes it's just disrespect, or there's something to do with a woman oftentimes. But other than that, this would not be, in my opinion, a situation where a cartel person from across the border or otherwise would come across and harm a young man like Caleb. Let's see. This was a good question, I thought. Was there anything at all found under the bridge or in that waterway where he took that Snapchat?
No, there wasn't.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was anyone either in his apartment, in his friend circle, did anyone mention anyone being angry at Caleb?
No, really. He's pretty black and white. I mean, people. If there was loud noise in the apartments, he might let them know at the office or something like that. But he's just not that kind of kid. He's not. Everybody likes him. He's just a smiling, lovable, kid and very personable. He just doesn't pick fights. He's not that kind of kid at all.
He looks like just a fun guy, like a good old American boy with his lures and his fish pictures, Yeah, I mean, that's the picture certainly that seems
loves
to
to hunt and fish, and he can pick up any string instrument and play it, from ukulele to bass to acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and very good at music. Loves music. You'll see pictures out there. He's playing the drums. Those are hobbies. Enjoys playing video games, but that's not just video games with a few other local, close friends. But it's not like that's not a drive for him. His drive is music, mixing music. He was creating some music too, and he'd call me and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And even that night, I mean, he was texting me. He's a creature of comfort or creature of habit, and he doesn't just go throw a shrimp on a hook. He's very, I'm going to go after this species. I'm going to go after this species, and so he was. We were texting back and forth about different fishing lures that he was going to be using after school. The next day with his buddies, getting in the kayaks and going.
And what song was he? What kind of music? Is he bluegrass? Is he rock and roll? Is he?
He's a pretty good mix, but he really likes kind of the Texas, not alternative, nothing crazy, more just Central Texas. I don't even know what you would call the genre. More country than anything, but not even country. Just folk music. Texas. We loved going to concerts that were not necessarily Luke Bryan. Of course, it was more the local artists and things like that.
So is he like a Kid Rock or a singer-songwriter, like a Jim Croce?
I wouldn't say Kid Rock, but more just I can't think of some of the names, but just a kid that would show up, at the local events, and of course in New Braunfels. New Braunfels is becoming a really big music venue, and so go to Green Hall every once in a while, or go up to Rock and R, one of those places, and see some of the more obscure, just folk type, good guitar playing, people. I wish I could name some of this stuff, but I really can't.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
he had he even had like Kansas on his playlist.
wow.
Dust in the Wind, Carry On My Wayward Son. Stuff like that too.
Yes. Yeah, classic rock was the best for him. He loved classic rock, and he loved doing the I guess the riffs of a lot of the classic rock stuff. For sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. I just wanted to get a sense of. It sounds like a songwriter, but in that vein. I mean, you look at some of these great 80s bands, the greats like Ario, Speedwagon, Kansas, Boston. They're some of the greatest songwriters when you listen to their lyric.
Yeah.
Even Kiss wrote Beth. I
Yeah.
mean, the song Beth, it's a beautiful, love song.
Well, he
Before,
enjoyed. I mean, even growing up. I mean, at junior high and high school, he was in, the church praise and worship stuff too, and so he was always the bass player for the most part. Maybe played drums every once in a while. Then at school, he was in the band. Played football, of course, but he enjoyed being in the band. There's pictures out there of him playing in the percussion side of the regular band and more the stage band.
Now, Jennifer, you get to be the expert on all things FBI, but you know that Peter Chris wrote the song Beth on his solo album.
I did, and Peter Chris had a different name that he went to when he left Kiss. What was that name? Oh, I can't remember. But he later took a different stage name. Who did he?
Did I get you back now?
Yep.
Yeah, who did Peter Chris become?
Yeah, Peter Chris went off on his own when they split up, and he wrote the song Beth on his own.
Right. Yeah, that was my point. Is some of the greatest singer-songwriters are rock and roll artists.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to make sure you weren't stepping into the world you didn't know about.
Oh, well, I love 80s. I was at Ario last night. Watched Ario and Cheap Trick. I have to say, if they come to town, I'm there. Any 80s band. I've seen them all over and over.
My first concert was Ario Speedwagon.
Was it really? Yeah.
They're great.
Great. I just love him. I love the fact the guy's 73 years old. He's turning 73, Kevin Cronin. And he is still a great singer. No, he can't carry those huge notes, and he knows it. So he's actually changed the music. That any high notes, he's just dumbed it down and still made it beautiful. But we digress. Let me get back on track. Somebody asked here, and this is an interesting question, and it's something we've been skirting around, and that was whether he got into a vehicle. And I, from an investigative standpoint, I think, and this isn't, I don't go with gut feelings. I know a lot of people say in my gut. I don't really have those. What I have is facts from cases you see in the past, and then if you start seeing those patterns on a case, you can use that as experience. You guys are both in the heavy machinery industry, so every time, whether it's, and I know nothing about this, whether it's an operation or whatever it might be, you can tell by certain areas that particular instrument is going to do good in this area as opposed to not this area. What I guess my point is on this, I just think he had to have gotten in a car. I might be wrong, but
yeah, I would say that. I would say that we don't. Obviously, we don't know what we don't know, right? But it's not logical to believe that he just disappeared on foot. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of parts of this that don't make a lot of sense, but I would say if we were going to talk about one thing that we're fairly confident of, we don't know if he got in a car or he was pulled into a car, but we believe there was a car in play. I think we're safe there.
Yeah, that's agreed. All right. Somebody asked about a visitor from Colorado. I just know he was playing video games with his buddy in Colorado. That's the only Colorado nexus we have, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. It was beginning of spring break, so yes, his friend from Colorado was going to come down, and then a lot of kids they were just preparing for spring break. So yeah, they were looking forward to being here.
Okay. It's my understanding, and please let me know, Randy, is this correct, that he was getting ready to go fishing the next day, but not until after classes were over. So sometime in the afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. And what kind of fishing was he going to do?
They're mainly focused on redfish and trout, speckled trout, and they, depending on like even that day, Sunday, he had been just wade fishing with a close friend and his girlfriend, the friend's girlfriend, just wade fishing up Wilson's Cut, which is kind of in between Corpus and Port Aransas. It's kind of one of their favorite spots to go. You can go out a channel and then you can turn and go into Pink Shack Cove, and it's a real pretty area of the bay because you've got some deep blue water as well as real shallow water. But again, focused on mostly trout, speckled trout, and reds.
And is this something, this fishing skill and love, did he learn this from you?
I'd like to think so. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you'll see pictures of us fishing, on the Guadalupe as a kid, and anytime we could get a chance to go fishing, we definitely, we go. Probably not fish as much as I would love to have fished, but yeah, it's a passion, and he loves to dove hunt and duck hunt and deer hunt and stuff like that too. So it's just he's an outdoor kid, loves kayaking, loves just going out and swimming in the river.
It's great. All right, we are almost through. We've got 3 questions left. Okay. As far as you know, did they do what I call a canvas right after? In other words, did they go to every single apartment and check in and around not only all the apartments that he could have easily walked to and knock on the door and speak with the individuals and ask to take a look around?
No, they didn't do that. They did not do that in its entirety. I'll let Randy. We everybody knows how strongly we support law enforcement. But I'd be lying to you if I told you that they talked to everybody, because Randy and I talked to people that were very close proximity, within 50 to 100 foot, that had never been talked to by the police 2 to 3 weeks after.
There was a time during the search on the 3rd day that they had several units in the apartment complexes, knocking on doors, trying to look at ring cameras, things like that. So many of the ring cameras are set for not extensive videoing. It's kind of like your front door. You can kind of set those cameras all the way out in the parking lot or right up close to your door. And on most of it, because there's so much activity, we're finding that a lot of those cameras were set since the sensitivity was low, where it maybe not have picked up anybody in the parking lot.
And then they also, we know, record over, which
Right.
is problematic, that they only have so much memory. And so, I mean, I don't like to armchair quarterback, but I'm going to say that, you see this sometimes with departments because of their manpower issues and because they do get a lot of missing cases reports that are usually resolved quite quickly. And so, unfortunately, some of the gumshoe investigative work, I call it, gets postponed, overlooked, or not done at all. And that is got to be so disappointing. And I just hope that, it's now 30 days later or so, but.
Well, and we're not in any way saying that, again, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
We don't know what they had versus what they needed. We just, from my perspective, we had a friend that he grew up with that lived right across the parking lot, and I felt like he should have been talked to for 2 reasons. One, his proximity, and the other is that he had a very long life history with Caleb. Now, I can armchair quarterback to your point, and I can say, if that were me running the investigation, if there was people that lived there that I didn't touch, I would keep going back until I touched them. But again, maybe they determined quickly that the apartment complex and the people in that complex were not of interest. And we've learned, Randy and I together have got a little uptight about things at times, and then we sat down and talked to them, and we learned that there's a reason what we think is important is not important. I mean, I think that, so what we've kind of figured out is that we either have to have faith in the job they're doing or we don't. And if we do, and we do, and so if we're going to have faith in the job that they're doing, then we have to let them do their jobs, and we have to just kind of know that the fact that it seems important to a civilian may not mean it's important to an expert investigator.
Yes, I love what you're saying. I love that you're supporting this investigation. I think that that's crucial. I think it's crucial because it also will give them confidence to keep you up to speed. The last thing they want to hear is just say at some point they shared something with you and then they see you blabbing something that they didn't want shared. That would just be poison for the relationship between you and law enforcement.
Right.
And so, and being on the other side for so many years, a lot of times, you're following the facts and the clues. And if the facts and the clues are leading you this way, you're not going to waste important time and resources going the opposite way. So I get that. I'm just telling you from an investigator, I'm doing that in minute one. I'm lining everybody up, and we're going to go to every door, and we're knocking on every door, and we're asking permission to search, period, end of story. That's what I'm doing. But that doesn't mean that I know why they didn't do that. So we'll leave it at, let's keep the confidence, let's keep the faith, and keep being a partnership, right? You need
Absolutely.
social media partnership, family partnership, because at the end of the day, nothing matters but finding Caleb.
Right, and they know that. I think we were very
Great.
very clear with them yesterday that, and they don't have a problem with media at all. They want the media exposure. They really want that because that's part of what's going to help find him. And so they're 100% on that. And like Tony said, I mean, we back the blue 100%. I'm even part of an organization where we train first responders. So it's near and dear to my heart as well.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that the relationship is good and that it is strong, and that's going to be nothing but, I think, positive for the case to move forward. Ring footage. I find it curious, and again, it might be something we just don't know, but that ring footage caught the kids playing with Jenny the dog at 12:56. But then seemingly no ring footage has caught anything else. Is that your understanding, or do you think there might be more that's known that you all don't know?
It is our understanding, and there's several explanations for that. The sensitivity, if he would have walked, out his back door, it's plausible that it didn't pick him up with the sensitivity turned down. I don't necessarily. I'm not necessarily on board with that. I'm more on board that, he went out the front door when he went to walk the dog by himself. If he had plans to go out the front of the apartment complex, which obviously he did, the shorter path there is to go out the front door. And unfortunately, there were no ring cameras out the front door. The only cameras that were out there were the apartment cameras, and they're not functioning.
And that is so very disappointing. Just to
Yeah, they
take
would have.
away
Yeah.
from all of this for those who have students in housing like this, that's off campus, that's private. And by the way, it looks like an amazing off-campus housing facility. I mean, this isn't just for the audience, and I posted some pictures on Twitter. This is nice. So, you know, it's great that he was in this safe and nice area. But I will say, boy, as a parent, make sure that you call the apartment complex and that their cameras are functioning, because unfortunately college age students are such a target for bad things, whether it be robbery, whether it be sexual assault, whatever, the list goes on. But those cameras become the eyes of justice, and without them it just becomes a big question mark. Actually, I'm going to call my daughter's apartment complex when we get done here and make sure their cameras are working.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would have, him going out the front, what we call the front door, there's two cameras that could have clearly seen him, and then a third going out of the gate or out of the little small gate that's there. And again, the gates weren't functioning correctly either.
Yeah, and that you and I talked about that offline, you, Tony, and I, and you know, such a perfect storm for the circumstantially for this to cause this mystery. All right, we have one more question. Let's see. Somebody mentioned this, and I'm not sure where this is coming from, and I look forward to you guys straightening this out, that supposedly there was a vehicle that left that was caught on camera. It might have had to do with the roommate or the girlfriend leaving, not Caleb's girlfriend, but the girlfriend of the roommate. Do you know about that, or is that the vehicle that some people have seen on camera that they're concerned about?
Yeah, that was essentially a boyfriend that was there seeing his girlfriend, and he ended up leaving in the middle of the night because he had to go back to work in San Antonio, and you know, that's just one of those things that spiraled out of control. But it's really not related to the investigation.
And it was in the area, but across the parking lot.
Okay, so just to put all the cyber sleuths at bay, that is an unrelated vehicle exit.
Yes.
As we just heard. All right. Because your time is so valuable, we went longer than I meant to. I'm so sorry, but I think it was very constructive.
Great.
I want to just ask a couple questions about Caleb. So we know he loved to fish. What was his favorite type of fishing to do?
Well, trout fishing, as far as saltwater, trout fishing, red fishing for sure. That's what they would normally hunt, and those are hunting fish. You actually go out and you spot the tails, in the water, and so it's a target type fish. But it was funny during COVID. All the boys had, we shut down the school. You had to work remotely, and we've got some great video actually on YouTube of a lot of these kids that he's grown up with. They would my wife is a school teacher, so they were always having her help teach them during COVID, and they would come over to the house and finish school, and then they were out on the Guadalupe River fishing, and that there's actually a really good video out there of the boys, when they were junior seniors out there fishing on the Guadalupe, and catching. Guadalupe's unique because they actually stock rainbow trout, and so
wow, they stock it. I never knew that.
Yeah, one of the only rivers in the state that can handle, that's cold. It's 68 degrees, and so it can handle rainbow trout. So that's always a big thing to go fish rainbow trout for sure.
Well, New Braunfels, one of my mentors, first name Marty, I won't give out his last, but he lives right on the Guadalupe River, and his daughter and I were very, very close, and I always loved going over to their house and getting in those inner tubes and going up and down that. Guadalupe was pretty special, so I'm very familiar with that area and all there is to do. And I just can picture Caleb out there fishing with his buddies in the Guadalupe. It's just pretty.
That was their social distancing.
Yeah, with COVID. So just two more questions, and then we'll let you go. But I wondered if you could share with us kind of one of your favorite Caleb stories. It can be funny, it can be a dangerous story, it can be April Fool's. What was your favorite story?
There's so many because he's such a fun kid. He's just always outgoing and really fun around the family, and it's hard to just pick one story. I mean, even he's real close to one of his uncles, and he got a brand new trash can, and so he's like, let's fill it up with water, and I can jump in it, that's when he was like 10 years old, and there's another funny video. He's kind of got an engineering mind, and that's what he's just got that engineering mind, and he got the idea he's going to build an air gun and for his darts, for Nerf darts, and that air gun would blow anything that Nerf's ever developed. I mean, it's a little white PVC. He cut all the PVC. He cut all the everything. It's got an air pump on it, and you could shoot a dart and you would never see it. I mean, it was gone. So that was always fun stuff. He loves to hike. Go out and hike with his sister. His grandparents took him on a senior trip where they did a lot of hiking and jeeping and all that kind of stuff. So to come up with one story is hard because he's just so much fun, and he is. I mean, he's a blast to be around, and quite frankly, I mean, the most recent thing would be going to Trout Fest just a couple weeks ago, and then Friday and Saturday before he went missing, he invites his mom down to hang out, and hang out with the roommates, go look at the fishing spots, go eat at some of the fun restaurants down here. So there's that kind of bond relationship between mom and sister and grandparents, and just that we could tell a million stories. I mean, just from snow skiing to just anything. He loved to camp, go out and go camping, especially with his uncle. Our family always takes time to do special things for our kids, to try to expand what they like. I mean, I've taken my daughter fishing, and she absolutely loves it. And it's kind of funny, every time Caleb would take her fishing, she would catch bigger fish. She would outfit him.
Of course. That's what always happens, beginner's luck or women luck.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you more. I mean, there's just thousands of stories. Yeah.
I think this is the biggest thing I see. I hear the love and the like. You not only loved your son, you liked your son. And going through teenage years sometimes, and going, having a college-age student, some parents don't like their kids that age. And you clearly, it just resonates so clear how much you loved your son, and you love your son, you like your son. And we got to get Caleb back home. Everyone, I'm asking you, please use every one of your platforms. 5 followers or 5,000 followers. It proliferates. It needs to get to the right person. If you live in this area, help out. Pass out a flyer. And just DM me, and I'll send you the flyer link. I'll try to figure out in my new YouTube status how to put the link on here. I'll probably have to get somebody to help me figure that one out. But help find Caleb. And to you, Tony, Randy, I'm so sorry to spend so much of your time. I think it was constructive, and my heart goes out, but I feel that nevertheless there is a lot of hope, and we'll just keep plugging along, and we'll get his name out there.
I want to say thank you. The way that you've done this interview is extremely professional, which you are, and it's such a breath of fresh air to really explain where we're at and where we feel. And I really, from the deepest of my heart, I appreciate the way that your professionalism and what you do. It means a lot.
Thank you, Randy. Tony, thank you for all your help, for being, the rock that Randy needs right now, and the amazing professional liaison between media and law enforcement and others to be there for him, to be a second set of eyes and ears and a second mind. Thank you, Tony. And
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Randy, I know we'll keep in touch. Tony, I know we'll
Please.
keep in touch. I care. I'll continue to advocate. And until next time, God bless you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.